Welcome back to the show. We are talking about the Juan Soto contract. Juan Soto is a Met. Winter meetings was this week. There's been a lot of different deals. Garrett Crochet for a package of minor leaguers going to the Red Sox. Finally, the Red Sox are dipping their toes back into baseball activity. That should be good for the game. It's been too long since the Red Sox have actually spent money. So it's nice to see them actually going to try to be competitive again. Right, since they sold off Mookie Betts, right? Who is the player that they have to build around? Devers. They've failed each offseason to build a team that can really complement what Devers brings to the table for the Red Sox. So it's good to see them actually active again. A healthy AL East is a more competitive and a more fun AL East to watch. The Yankees, man, they didn't waste any time, right? All this talk about Juan Soto not doing it for the money, again, it turned out to be that the case, right? It's a Scott Boras classic case once again. But interesting little details coming out of this signing come from Mets reporters, coming from, I believe, Andy Martino. I could be misattributing that, so forgive me if I am. Saying that it might have been John Heyman. Anyway, don't quote me on this. There have been New York reporters saying that basically the decision came down to the extra amenities that weren't available to Juan Soto. So the Yankees didn't offer like a personal suite, right, for Juan Soto's family. Juan Soto very, very clear that he's wanting to be with his family. He's very close with his family, that it's important for them to be part of the game, and the Yankees would not budge when it came down to those kind of concessions for players, right? This has happened many times, right, in the Yankees locker room, right? Not many times with free agents, but with players on the team. I mean, Roger Clemens tried to get his own personal trainer in there. They would not let him. I don't believe that Aaron Judge's personal batting coach is allowed in the clubhouse, or that might have been relaxed. But the Yankees have very firm policies. The idea of this contract coming down to those little things, specifically the Yankees tell players if they want a suite for their family, they must pay for it. And that's been the case for a long, long time. And Steve Cohen just threw in the suite. In most cases, I would frown upon them doing this to get the player. But there's a couple reasons why I'm kind of glad that the Yankees brass stuck to their guns a little bit. In the past, we've talked about on this podcast how I feel like the Yankees have to stop and relax a little bit, show a little bit more emotion, right? Stop with this militaristic attitude that was brought upon by George Steinbrenner, right? Why can't they have facial hair? Because you can't have facial hair in the Army, right? Like that was their thing, to look more professional, right? The Mets are kind of fostering, especially since the advent of Buck Showalter, who gets conveniently forgotten in this entire Mets buildup, right? But Buck Showalter kind of blew down the doors after the Wilpon sold the team to Cohen, right? About making it more of a family environment. These seem to be factors that made a difference with Juan Soto. I'm glad the Yankees didn't do that, though, because there's a couple things going on, right? If the Yankees had signed Juan Soto, if the Yankees had given them all the concessions, right, you're kind of putting Judge in an awkward position, right? Like, he's the captain of the team, right? But you're giving another player an enormous, almost double the salary, right? Total value, I should add, of Judge's, right? It is double value, right? Yeah, it is. You're also giving him more concessions that he wasn't allowed to get, right? And I know, the market only gets better for people who are younger and people who reach it later, right? They reap the benefits sometimes of people who kind of break too early. Seems to be the case with Judge, but he still is the captain of the team. So to offer those concessions for him, it's kind of like waving a white flag saying, hey, well, we tried with your generation. We're moving on to the next iteration of who the face of the franchise is going to be, right? This could have been part of the decision for them not to offer him these kind of concessions. But also at the same time, the player is getting paid $765 million with the potential of $805 million. They could buy a suite. They could buy the ballpark. I mean, I think Yankee Stadium was built for $2 billion. That's a little more than 2 Juan Soto careers. He could buy a suite, right? I just think in the end, it ended up coming down to basically what the money was, and also if Juan Soto really appreciates being close with his family, by them basically conceding to give him those extra kind of perks, those end up being the differentiators in things that are very, very close. Now, granted, there is a spin in the media that's saying that, the money was really close. Well, if you break it out with AAV, it ends up not being close at all, right? You can't walk away from that much money and say it was really just about a club suite, right? Or it was about free parking when you're coming to the ballpark. It just doesn't make sense at some point, right? So I will say that I'm glad that the Yankees kind of stuck to their guns here. Also, it opens up financial flexibility, right? It's not obviously $700 million a year, but if you break down what the Yankees offer was, it ended up being around 47, 48 million. You have $48 million to spend. And if you know anything about the Yankees payroll, right? These contracts, these long-term contracts can be structured in a lot of different ways. If you actually look on FanGraphs, now this is completely estimated, I assume. I don't know how FanGraphs gets these projections, but if you look at the way that Juan Soto's contract is structured, he gets paid like $67 million for the first 13 years, and it comes down to $46 million, right? This is all, by the way, this is all not deferred. This is not like the Shohei Ohtani contract, which was, he deferred $68 million of it to be paid at a later date. He's getting paid $2 million a year and then getting his salary of his back paid salary. This is guaranteed no deferral money. But the way that these contracts can be structured are kind of creative in a lot of different ways. They can kind of be like bell-shaped, if you will, where they start off small, they get really big in the middle, and then they kind of drop off towards the end, right? They're not completely just split by year, by salary, by number of years, and that's it. So they have now financial flexibility, at least $47 million to do something with. And the Yankees did. They went out and signed Max Fried from the Atlanta Braves, a starting pitcher, to an 8-year, $218 million deal. Now, the Yankees have been steadfast about getting starting pitching, and they did so. And they pivoted quickly after the Mets signed Soto, right? They've been steadfast about wanting to get pitching. They've signed Rodon to a long-term contract. They signed Cole to a long-term contract. They signed Max Fried, who is no pitcher to sneeze at, right? He is going to be a really interesting number 3, number 2 starter behind Cole. And now they have, even last year, I thought we had an overabundance of starting pitching. We now have starting pitching that we can start giving away like Oprah. We almost have an abundance of it, which is very rare in today's game. But they have now the financial flexibility to go out and get more players, right? The Yankees pivoted with Max Fried. They're in the hunt for Kyle Tucker. Let's not forget, the Yankees team has holes, right? Anthony Rizzo is not returning unless something completely changes in the market. He's not returning. He's a free agent this year. They can buy him out for $6 million, and I believe they did. Gleyber Torres is probably not returning. There's an empty first base, second base. Shortstop is covered. Third base is covered by Jazz. Jazz could move to second base, which opens up an opportunity for Nolan Arenado, maybe in St. Louis, right? Bregman, potentially, if the Yankees are willing to deal with the Houston Astros, right? Which, by the way, it is the cheating scandal. But, hey, forgive and forget, right? They weren't. They would only make it to the World Series if Houston didn't cheat. They wouldn't have. Who knows if they would have won it. They also have some liabilities in the outfield, right? If Judge goes to right field, as Cashman stated at the winter meetings, and Dominguez slots in at center field, you still have this emptiness at left field with Alex Verdugo. You got the DH wrapped up by Giancarlo Stanton for the next 3 years, 4 years, however long that contract is, which used to be really expensive, and now it just seems like it's child's play. And so you still have holes to fill. So with that money, that $47 million maximum, right, that they were going to give to Juan Soto, and with some money coming off the books, they still have room to play, right? There's been talk about Caleb Durbin, a promising second baseman coming up from the minor leagues and filling in that hole for Glaber, right? They have the money to go and get some people, right? It's not going to be Willy Adames as he signed with the Giants, right? But you have the flexibility to move some of these players around. Christian Walker is another name from the Arizona Diamondbacks that keeps on getting floated, right, as a possibility. And so in a way, I think it was Jeff Passan that basically said the Yankees might be better off, right? That's exactly how I felt after about 5 seconds hearing that Juan Soto had signed with the Mets, because the Yankees didn't need to rinse and repeat last year. The World Series showed everybody in 5 games that the Yankees were not complete enough. That they got it's almost like they got an energy drink boost in the middle of in the season, and it jolted them to the World Series. And then eventually the holes came out and exposed just how traditionally unfit they were to play winning baseball. And so with this financial flexibility now, I think they can do more things, right? And also it gives them a little bit of room, right, at the trade deadline. We always talk about this when they sign a big player in the offseason. Do they still have the money to move? They're always trying to keep a little bit of flexibility so they can add to the team, right? Well, now they have a lot of holes to fill. They have a lot of money that they put on the table that he didn't take. So take that money and distribute, right? Yeah, you probably can't get 4 or 5 players, right? That's not the case, but you can distribute that money as they just did with Max Fried. And now with the abundance of starting pitching, by the way, there's Garrett Cole, there is Max Fried, there's Carlos Rodon, there's Luis Gil, there's Nestor, there is Marcus Stroman, right? One of these people are not going to be starting, right? So get rid of some people that have Clark Schmidt. I'm forgetting Clark Schmidt. One of these people, you could have a long man on the roster. That's not an ideal spot for any kind of baseball player to be in, but you want to be able to deal these people to get a better team, a team that kind of emphasizes contact a little bit more. Pete Alonso, right? I know that there doesn't seem to be interest in New York bringing on that kind of, and as they say, that kind of bat, a right-handed bat to replace Soto, a left-handed bat. It's not going to be the same, but it's an opportunity, right, to bring in a veteran player, right, a fun player, if he's interested. I love the fact that they have flexibility. It's been the most exciting offseason for the Yankees, losing this player than it would have been had they retained Juan Soto. And that is a confusing place to be, because a lot of the narrative has been that the Mets are the new Yankees, right? And it's kind of funny considering that, even when the Mets signed the biggest player in baseball, somehow the story is still about the Yankees, right? So as much as the narrative has been dictated towards the Yankees feeling like they've lost a step, right? As much as the narrative has been driven towards what would have George done? Is George rolling around in his grave, right? Give credit to the Yankees and give credit to Brian Cashman, right? Who pivoted and is doing the thing that you want him to do as a fan, which is redistribute that money and have financial flexibility so that you can not only sign the big free agent, but you can make the team better. And you don't just rinse and repeat and put the same thing out. We've had a bunch of those years where they didn't do enough, or they said they were going to do more and they didn't. And this doesn't appear to be the Yankees stopping here, right? Who knows? Corbin Burns might be a Yankee. It would seem like an overabundance of starting pitching, but let's not just negate it, right? Not yet. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see where this team is. I'm more excited for this team without Juan Soto than I am with it. Would I have liked Juan Soto? Of course. Who wouldn't? The guy is a dynamic, incredible player. But I think the idea of revamping and changing the whole structure of the team, that is what makes me excited to be a Yankees fan. Really quick, before we take a little bit of another break and we talk about the Skeleton Crew, just initial thoughts about the first 2 episodes that I watched on Disney+. I think the 3rd episode is already out, too. Let's talk about Max Fried. Max Fried comes from the Atlanta system. He has a record of 73-36 with a career ERA of 3.07. It seems to be a pretty good strikeout to walk ratio in his career. He's got let's see if we can find all these stats here. Last year, 174 innings pitched, 77 innings pitched the year before. Must have been an injury. 185 and 165 innings pitched in his stint from the ages of 27 to 30. This is a good ad, right? I mean, it's not Cole, but it's definitely gives you a little bit more stability than than rolling out Cole and Rodon, even though Rodon improved dramatically from where he was in 2022 when he came over and pitched half of the season. 2023 when he pitched half of the season and came up in July 2nd. So definitely a good ad. The Yankees needed to get someone. If it was Max Fried or Corbin Burns, they needed to land someone, and they did just that. So give credit to the Yankees on that kind of addition. I'm excited to see him pitch. I'm excited to actually see a rotation that is resembling a little bit of the Clemens, Wells, Coney era, I think, or Mussina era. I can't. There was one where they were all together, right? When Wells came back. I can't remember exactly what the rotation was, but it was exciting to see each starting pitcher. So really, really looking forward to that. Drafted by the Padres in the first round of the 2012 Major League Amateur Draft. That's from Baseball Reference. So a good pickup for the Yankees. Hopefully it's just the beginning, and hopefully it's not the end. So let's